TV channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me on Leaf Talk, as always, candid, frank, and live. Leaf Talk. Did I mention we're going to do Leaf Talk?
I think so.
So let's have some Leaf Talk. I guess 1 out of 2 ain't bad, no? In Tampa?
I think the Maple Leafs' goal at this point was to maintain home ice advantage by ensuring that they got a split in Tampa Bay. And
I would have preferred moving on to the next series as the goal. I would like to aim a little higher because, there's no room for, I got to say this just before we came to Aaron. I was just mentioning to Aaron that Coach Cooper of the Tampa Bay Lightning said that the team had to show some urgency. It had to start on time. It needed intensity. They needed to score on a goalie they knew they could score on. All these things, he said, came true in Game 4. What was lacking for the Leafs was the exact opposite for the Leafs. There was no urgency. There was no beating the goalie until it was irrelevant. And all the stuff that they did, and they went to Florida to get back home ice advantage, Aaron. They succeeded there, but I really don't think they played like they wanted to win both in Tampa.
No, and the other thing that I thought of immediately as soon as you mentioned what Coach Cooper had said was everybody says exactly the same thing about the Maple Leafs. They got to start on time. They got to be ready. They got to put goals in against the goalie they know they can score against. They've got to play with a sense of urgency because their backs are against the wall, that sort of thing. It's true. The Leafs didn't start on time. There was no urgency. It was almost as if collectively they'd all decided, we're good with a split. And I don't cotton to that. If you're going to try to win, you should try to win. There's none of this, we'll win it at home in Game 7 garbage. Get the series over as quickly as you can, especially during this time of the season when you're going to need the rest and recovery time.
And especially when you're playing the defending Stanley Cup champions.
Oh, my God, yes.
Right? You don't want to give them any room to prove why they're the 2-time Stanley Cup champions, right? They can prove it. They've done it. Been there, done that. They've got the T-shirt to prove it. These guys, this Tampa team is really good, and I have to say, and look, I'm not suggesting that the referees submarine the Maple Leafs, but I think it's fair to say, regardless of which team you root for, Tampa or Toronto, the referees were noticeable, and the one thing you want from referees is officials is for them not to be noticeable. They should disappear into the back, of the story. But once again, in this game, they're in the forefront of the story. Constantly calling penalties, missing calls left and right. Not that, as for example, how do you miss a guy holding a stick and a guy ripping the stick out of the guy's hands and then high sticking someone? How do you miss him holding the stick?
All the penalties that they did call deserved to be called.
Absolutely. We agree.
So we agree on that part.
Yeah. We're not complaining about the penalty calls.
The other part of it, though, is when you start to get into ridiculousness. There comes a point in the game where if you're going to start calling everything, like fans have been clamoring for you to call everything, then the Leafs are never getting back to even strength.
The bar was set very, very low. It barely was off the ground, the bar for calling penalties when the game started. And then when the game ended, it was, okay, you can punch the guy in the face once. Okay, you can punch him in the face twice. All right, that's it. You punched him 3 times. That's enough. That's the kind of stuff that makes me crazy because, you know, again, it's not the not calling calls. It's not the calling calls. The word that Aaron and Frank always use is
balance, consistency.
consistency. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for, I want to sit at the table and play cards with Aaron, and I want to know what the rules are before we start. And by the time the game's over, we played out the rules that we agreed on. What were the rules? Were the rules. We didn't change the trump card. We didn't change how many cards we're going to deal. We didn't change which is better, a straight or a flush. It's always the same thing. It's the poorest officiating in sports right now. I think the award has to go to the National Hockey League, and it's not because it's against the Leafs, but I don't think I've seen in my life the refereeing that used to get really berated was basketball officiating. It looks good beside NHL refereeing right now.
Right. But and that's the other thing now. Basketball is the only professional sport where referees are held accountable, where they do a 2-minute recap. They'll change calls mid-play. They'll add or take away points for 2 and 3 point baskets mid-game. They'll add time back on if things were missed. Why? Because there's a lot of betting going on. Based on the number of commercials that I've seen recently on CBC and TSN Sportsnet for betting, I'm wondering if we're ever going to see the same sort of thing for hockey,
Later on in the CFL show at 7:00 with David, I think I'm going to talk to him about gambling, and you're right. If we can segue a little bit here, just take a break when it comes to gambling. Is this a problem? Is gambling and the way? See, it isn't the gambling that's a problem in my mind. It's the promotion of the gambling during the game.
Right.
It's like advertising cigarettes, alcohol. Am I making my point? They shouldn't. It's okay for people to drink at the game. It's okay for people to gamble at the game. But I don't think it's good to talk about it during the game. For the sake of the people who are watching, and I'm referring to younger people who, they don't need to know about gambling, just like they don't need to know about a 26er of Seagram's is on sale at the liquor store. Or you can buy a package of Stogies, this new flavored Stogie. Like, that's gambling, alcohol, same territory, and cigarettes. They're all the same territory. It's time to get it out of the game.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. Now, I can guarantee that they will take a bit of a revenue hit. I mean, it's the same thing when they tried to get smoking out of NASCAR and IndyCar.
Tennis. Tennis.
Oh, my God.
Remember?
Yeah.
The Players Invitational.
Yeah. But the teams and the league will recover from that lost revenue. That's not.
They won't lose revenue. They just won't have as much. I know that sounds silly, but
No, and that the way that it's commonly defined as losing revenue is if this year we got $4 billion in ads and last year we had 6, then we've lost $2 billion worth of advertising between last year and this year, is the way the league portrays it.
But
not the fact that revenue levels have changed.
The league doesn't get to decide that. Just like if the league had the option to advertise liquor or cigarettes, what do you think the leagues would do?
Oh, of course, to the hilt.
Whatever money we can get, there's nothing verboten. Everything's up for grabs. So I'm afraid the way they treat the gambling needs to be treated just like cigarettes and alcohol, in my opinion. They're things that are not, they're very adult driven. So anywhere children can watch, which hockey games are, young children watch hockey games. They shouldn't be watching how to gamble. They're too young to understand, and or the same way they're too young to drink. They're too young to smoke. They're also too young to gamble. And we don't allow those other two things into the game.
When my nephew knows more about how to turn a parlay into a trifecta while also covering the money line and covering the spread
That's
more than I
scary.
do, that's an
That's
issue, brother.
scary.
Yeah,
That's
it's an
scary,
issue.
Aaron. It's scary. It's wrong, and it's time to. I think I'll make a prediction right now that you will start hearing about that. I don't know how long it'll take the government, society in general, and unfortunately, media is big business, and gambling is big money, and we all know what business when it comes to money, how business feels about money.
Right? Greed is good.
Yeah, so get rid of it. It can't be on the game. It just they can't do that. I didn't like it when I first saw it, and I don't like it now. I mean, they can do it as part of a show after the game or something like that, but they should not have it. That's advertising of something that's equivalent to alcohol and cigarettes, and it should not be on the game, just like those two things shouldn't. But
And it's
okay.
a full 5 segment in the first intermission now
Oh, you
about how
can't
you
avoid
can
it.
change your bets and follow the odds and all that sort of happy crappy. Pardon my French.
No,
But
listen, I'm not
I just
against gambling. I'm not against cigarette. Well, yes, I am.
I don't like
I'm not
promoting it.
against alcohol. I'm definitely not against alcohol. Please don't let me lose my beer during the game. Well, I hardly ever drink now. I'm sort of soft pedaling the drinking now. Anyway, I don't drink that much at all. But I don't look at adults imbibing responsibly as them not being able to do it, not have to do it, whatever. I just don't think it's right to advertise it while kids are watching. I know that sounds silly, but it's how I feel.
No, I hear you.
Let's go
Speaking of,
back to the Leafs. They're a big gamble.
I was going to say, speaking of gambling, if you look at the Maple Leafs from the 5-0 game, from their win, the power play opportunities were 5 power play opportunities for Tampa, 6 power play opportunities for the Leafs, 51 minutes in penalties for Tampa, 62 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Flip that to the 7-3 loss. The Maple Leafs had 3 power plays. The Tampa Bay Lightning had 8.
Yep.
So, this is a question of not doing the dumb thing, not being lazy. The hooking penalties and holding penalties, and it's not, that's not what you want to do. Cross-checking against Pat Maroon may be warranted. But
It punches to the face in a scrum.
yeah.
Initiating the scrums, like the coach said at the beginning of the series, this has come down to retaliation. In other words, taking out your frustration in a way that attracts the attention of the official. Wrong, I think, is your point.
Yeah. Don't
right?
get caught.
Like when Riley takes 3 punches to the face and then finally says, enough is, and then just see the one with Tavares looking at the referee, he took a punch in the face, looked at the referee, hey, did you see that? And he got another punch in the face. And then he got a third one, and the guy finally got a penalty. Svechnikov, I think, was the criminal on that one. No, the Leafs lack. I think the first game was their best game, I think, and that game was the game where they had that fourth line that was truculent. Sorry, Mr. Burke, but they need to bring truculence back into the game. They really do, and it has to come back in because there needs to be a magnet for that attention, which is, the physicality, so that the officials go, okay, the 2 fourth lines are going after each other. Okay, when they cross the line, then when the other guys do it, it's too late now, because now the attention on the game is, that's the whole point, is that they need to raise their level of crap kicking. They got to raise the level of the crap kicking on the one line, so that the rest of the lines can run a little better. It wasn't, again, it's not about officiating. It's about mojo. And the Leafs don't have it right now. They didn't look like they had it.
It's all about making space for yourself.
You know how you can tell the Leafs weren't playing well?
Nylander
got 2 goals. Sound familiar?
At least
Montreal,
he's still scoring, man. That's the thing. Nylander has been one of their better playoff performers. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the
my
team
problem is he plays really
up.
well when the Leafs suck. I'm just saying.
So here's the question then. Do you want Nylander to play well and earn a $6.934287111 contract? Or do you want the Leafs to be awesome and him disappear and people call for him to be traded? Because that seems to be the trade-off.
No, well, for me, what it comes down to is the Leafs have to play defense. I said it every gall darn time we do this show. I'll say it again. The Leafs will win if they play defense. If they don't play defense good enough, well enough, tight enough, cheap enough, if you will, giving away very few free rides, they'll lose. Because quite frankly, what's becoming clear is the team that scores first scores often enough that the team that doesn't score first can't catch up. That's what we've seen in this series.
Now, the other real issue that we see here as well is the fact that when the Leafs take a lot of penalties, Tavares and Marner and Nylander, Tavares, Matthews and Nylander, because Marner plays the penalty kill, don't get a lot of ice time. So it's harder for them to engage. And
we're also seeing Matthews disappear into the dark.
Yeah.
He's getting his chances, so that's good, right? He's getting his chances, but he's not, he's hitting the crossbar. Is that his fault that he hit the crossbar? Of course it's his fault. He shouldn't hit the crossbar. Does it mean he's not playing well? Of course it doesn't mean he's not playing well. It just means that his talent isn't as fine-tuned as it needs to be. He has it. He has he has the opportunities, but he's not capitalizing, and he needs to capitalize, and he hasn't been.
Well, I find it interesting that you mentioned that because he's currently sitting at 6 points in the playoffs.
But they come in bunches. He scores enough points in one game to cover 3 games. You see, this is the problem.
Yeah, because he had 3 in the first game. He had 2 goals and an assist. Then he had 2 assists in the second game that they lost 5-2. Was blanked in their 5-0 win, and then had 1 assist in their 5-3 loss.
Right.
Or sorry, the 7-3 loss. So it's one of those,
Again, it's the same word that we use with the officials. It's about consistency, right?
Yeah.
And the Leafs have not been consistent. That's their first crime. Goaltending. What did you think of Campbell wanting to stay in? At least that's the impression I think we all had. We heard what the announcers thought was going on. We saw what we saw with our own eyes, and it sure looked like he didn't want to come out.
No, I don't think he wanted to come out at all. I think he felt that a couple of those goals weren't necessarily his fault, and he could have played through it. But unfortunately, by the time they actually did manage to get him out, the damage had already been done. I mean, Källgren came in and got a shutout the rest of the way. 10 saves on 10 shots, right? Like,
it was hilarious to watch the pulling of a goalie in slow motion. It took 5 minutes on the clock to remove the goaltender from the moment the coach wanted to remove the goaltender because they kept getting penalties and he decided to pull the goalie. They were 2 men short twice before he could get him out.
There's nothing he can do about that, like you're in it now.
Hey, Källgren, tell you what, we need you to pick up where Soupy took over. Yeah, and we want you to be put like a duck in a carnival right off the bat with no warm-up. I mean, gosh, that was tough and Källgren did a good job considering, the way he went in. He made some really nice saves. They've got a pretty good goaltender there. That's a guy that no matter what happens with Soup, if he isn't up to snuff, the problem is it wasn't his fault they were where they were, right? I think we can agree it wasn't his fault that the Leafs were in trouble early. It was more of the team not, the team was not doing what they've done before, which it looked to us like the Leafs had finally learned. They'd finally learned that you got to block shots. You got to stop. You got to fight to get possession of the puck when it's near your net. You can't give a guy a free shot. That stuff evaporated in the last game.
Yeah, it just seemed like all the previous gameplay, all the previous tape that they watched,
All the good
everything
things
that
they were doing.
physically experienced, yeah, the good stuff just disappeared, and all that was left was just this unrelenting sea of bad.
Oh, it
And
was
it was
terrible.
just,
But you know what? They're tied 2-2. It's a best of 3. Two of
yep.
the games are at home. If you start the season and you say to yourself, the Leafs are going to make the playoffs. The Leafs are going to be the home team in the playoffs, and they're going to be playing the Stanley Cup champions, and all they got to do is win 2 of 3. You'd have bought that ticket at the beginning of the season, right?
I'd still buy it now.
Well, absolutely. I'm just saying, even when you don't know, it would have been a good bargain.
Oh yeah.
So reality is that they're still in the series, for goodness sake. But they really got to start on time. Sorry for those of you that don't want to remember the other coach, Babcock. They have to start on time. They have to initiate, not react, and they need to keep moving their feet. This is something that the Toronto Maple Leafs are very good at, skating. And to see how many penalties they took because they stopped skating it's just not right. This is not the team that needs to do that. Or, they have the ability to skate, through on defense. And they haven't done that either, Aaron.
No, unfortunately, they have not. They've not shown that their ability to do that sort of thing, and it's frustrating watching it because you know that they're absolute speed merchants when they want to be.
The Flames are behind the 8 ball, worse than
Yep.
the Leafs. This is a team that I gave the best shot of the 3 teams that are in the playoffs, being, of course, Toronto, Calgary, and Edmonton. What's happened with them? They can't score. I mean, other teams couldn't score against them. Now they can't score.
Well, they've never really been a high goal scoring team, and that's not anything that Ron Sutter has ever preached whenever he's coached the team. It's always been defense, defense, defense. So, it's not surprising to me that they've been low scoring games. Markstrom has been fantastic. The unfortunate thing is on the other side of the ice, Ottinger has been just as spectacular, if not more so. They win by a shutout 2-0, and then Pavelski all of a sudden comes to life. And they end up winning the third game of the series 4-2. So now Calgary's in the unenviable position of being down 3-2 in the series.
Right. And then you have the situation where you have the Oilers, who have become the best chance for Canada to be represented in the Stanley Cup, or at least they could be the only team going through.
Well, they did chase the goalie in their third game 8-2. That was a bit of a butt kicking. Sorry, in their second game 8-2. But then the Kings turned around right after that and quick pitch to shutout. 31 saves, and the Kings ended up beating the Oilers 4-0. So this is a Jekyll and Hyde sort of series.
I like Kane.
I really do too. Not as a person, but as a player.
Yeah, he's got some edge.
Yep.
5 goals, as many as anybody in the playoffs. He's the kind of guy that likes the playoffs, and the playoffs like him. Yeah, he's doing an amazing job.
He's built
real quick. We got a couple of minutes. Let's do some quick CFL stuff. Lansdowne 2.0. The plan is going to be put in place. The new Red Blacks home, an adjustment to the stadium.
Yep. They voted in favor of a staff report on the plan unveiled by OSEG, and it's been dubbed Lansdowne 2.0. So the first phase would see the Civic Center Arena get folded into the complex as well. So that's a good sign for football and for hockey.
Quarterbacks not going to, at least the CFLPA says, quarterbacks not to join training camp.
Yeah, there's an issue going on here, obviously. They're looking at a fair and equitable collective bargaining agreement that isn't in place yet. Training camps are supposed to open Sunday, with Winnipeg and Saskatchewan scheduled to kick off the preseason on the 23rd. So,
Elks signed Cardale Jones.
This is good for them. Not to mention JT Barrett is also retiring. So best of luck to him in his future endeavors. Ohio State quarterback Cardale Jones is with the team, which is pretty cool.
Bombers?
Well, Bombers have signed Greg McCrae as well as another pair of receivers. They're looking to shore up their offense again, which is pretty cool. Looking forward to seeing what that brings.
Ticats sign American DB.
Yeah, that's Michael Witherspoon. For those who are not aware, Michael actually spent some time with East Carolina University before transferring to ECU. So we'll see how he works out for them.
Let's go CFL. Thanks,
Hell
Aaron.
yeah.
This was awesome.
Thanks, Frank. Much appreciated.
For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Candid Frank Live's Leaf Talk, Aaron, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.